Excuses, excuses, excuses. Well, the truth is, there are no excuses. At least when it comes to God's existence, it's typically resistance. Denial can be persistent. Until you even cover your ears, won't dare to listen. And believe me, this has nothing to do with being Christian or any other religion. But I'll get to that part a little later because it's a given. For now, we'll stick to science, common sense, and your conscience. Like, what is the chemical composition of good and bad? Like being a good dad or knowing when to be sad? When our thoughts are simply chemicals and molecules randomly put together by an uncaused blast. Trillions of lottos won purely by mere chance. Look, there may be a void of information, but more likely it's just a preference to avoid the information. But neither the lack of information nor the preference to avoid it saves you from the existence of even the most basic information, nor the truth within it. God is real, and there is not a human, dead or alive, who doesn't or didn't know it. For example, when you walk up a flight of steps, your subconscious mind is counting those steps, irrespective of your choice to acknowledge it or not. So you're able to run up those steps with your eyes closed even, still never actually counting, just knowing. Look, the truth about God is plain, and it doesn't require faith to know that he exists, only a brain. Faith is only required to follow him and serve him by name. In fact, his existence is an irrefutable reality which deniers only prefer to deny. Now, why do I continue calling it a preference? Well, because most people prefer to live without accountability or the thought that there is someone watching every step and judging every inclination of their hearts. So they turn a blind eye, but it's all just pretend, and here's how we know it. When we see a painting, we know beyond the shadow of a doubt it had a painter, whether or not we see or know the painter. Even something as simple as a heart in the sand irrefutably had a designer. Well, the universe is finely tuned and designed with a level of precision that no mind can equate the fullness of. Atheists simply rest in the unknown. But it's not just rest, it's absolute faith. In fact, atheism requires more faith than any mind can honestly muster. Certainly more faith than believing that the most complex design in the universe had a designer, because it forces them to deny all five senses in their most common forms. Even the smallest living cell known to man has a DNA coding equivalent to the information in 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannicas. Find me one instance in human history, one scientist, one human period, which has ever observed a single design without a designer. Outside from the ridiculous claim that nature designed itself from nothing to something, which is partially true, and what God-denying scientists have discovered to their own detriment. And that is, the universe had a beginning, and it began with a bang. The problems they face is two of many. One, it banged from a state of absolute nothingness. Two, it banged or exploded into order rather than disorder. And explosions don't put things together, they break things apart. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Truth is, technicalities are meaningless to a mind that is willing to deny all five of their senses for a preference, let alone the laws of nature, the law of causality, angular momentum, and so on, or the great gap in fossil records. The simplest life form has extreme complexity in its design, with far greater detail and precision coding than a simple heart in the sand, forcefully requiring a supernatural designer outside of the nature which science says begun in an instant from absolute nothingness. And so it was written in the book of Romans, chapter 1, verses 18 through 22. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who suppress the truth by unrighteousness, because what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give him thanks. But their thinking became nonsense, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. That's right, fools are on the loose, and their foolishness is profuse. But Almighty God will not be reduced. It is true, indeed, they are without excuse. They are without excuse. They are without excuse.